Howdy, folks. I'm Brain from Inspector Gadget,
I'm Amber.
and here's some Go Gadget Reddit. Alright, folks, welcome to the Saturday morning special here. We've got a show for you. This one does involve adoption, and it does involve kids being rejected because of adoption, so I do want to cover that. Our letter for today is titled, Am I a Jerk for Canceling the Plans for Thanksgiving After My Parents Called My Brother's Baby Their First Grandchild? I'm a 32-year-old female, and I've been with my wife Ava, a 34-year-old female, for 8 years now. We've been married for 5. She was a single mom of 3 kids when we first started dating. She had 2 daughters, now 10 and 12, and a son, 16. I've watched these kids grow up. I've read them bedtime stories. I've done bath times, first day of school, PTA meetings. I've done it all. I very much consider them to be my kids. And they've been calling me mom for almost 6 years now. My brother Ivan, a 28-year-old male, just had a baby girl with his fiancée Sarah, a 27-year-old female. I love my niece, and my kids adore their cousin. My kids have been the only grandchildren on my side of the family since Ava and I got together. And there's never been a moment where the kids and my wife were treated like they didn't belong. My brother is their uncle, my mom and dad are their nana and pop, and the kids see my family as theirs, and I always thought that my family felt the same way about them. Well, the kids and I were over at my brother's house just hanging out, and my parents ended up dropping by with gifts for my niece. Ivan laughed when he saw the toys and told our mom and dad that they were going to end up spoiling her rotten. My mom said that since my niece is their first grandchild, of course they have to spoil her. My kids were sitting in the living room with all of us, and my youngest daughter looked hurt when she realized what my mother had said. My son and my 12-year-old didn't fully react to it, but I could tell it bothered them both too. Sarah spoke up and said, "Oh, you mean our first grandbaby, not first grandchild." My dad shook his head and replied that my niece was their first grandchild. I didn't want my kids to keep sitting there and listening to that, so I handed my son the keys and I told him to wait in the car with his sisters. When they were gone, I asked my parents why they'd said that in front of my kids, that they weren't their grandchildren. And my mom said that they couldn't be their grandchildren because they really weren't my children. My wife and I were going to be hosting Thanksgiving at our house this year, but I told my parents that if they didn't view my kids as their family, they could just host a meal at their own house with their real family while I spent the holiday with mine. I left before they could say anything else to me, and my wife and I have reiterated to the children that they will always be my kids and I will always be their mom, regardless of our DNA. My brother is mad at me now because he thinks that I reacted too harshly and that I should try to see where my parents are coming from. My mom texted us saying that she and my dad love the kids, but they still aren't her grandchildren, and that she hopes that we can come to understand that because she doesn't want this to ruin my niece's first Thanksgiving. I haven't replied back, but I meant what I said, but I'm worried that maybe I'm reacting too harshly. Edited to add some info. I adopted all 3 of the children 4 years ago, so they aren't just my parents' step grandchildren. Even if I hadn't legally adopted them, they would still be kids in my eyes. My kids in my eyes. All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Absolutely not the jerk. What your parents did was disgusting, and your brother's also a jerk for not shutting this down, too.
Yeah, I think that they really overstepped here, especially with saying this in front of the kids too. Like, way to just open that up. What happens if they had never had a real grandchild?
Well, then they would be fine with them. They're grandchildren until as long as it's convenient. But once the bio grandkids come,
Yeah.
and it's disgusting too how your mom is like, well, we need to set this aside so we don't ruin things for the less than
You,
1 year
yeah,
old.
yeah, the less than 1 year old who's not going to remember Thanksgiving, right?
Like, I literally don't care if I broke your children's heart. What matters is my real granddaughter who
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
remember this will have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's gonna be real, real traumatic for that poor child. Probably as traumatic as someone saying that you're not really their family. Yeah, I just don't. This is just very frustrating because they chose to, like you said, treat this as though it was just convenient. Like the moment it stopped being convenient to have these kids as their grandchildren, they stopped viewing them as their real grandchildren. So it just seems completely out of left field.
Yeah, well, and unless your parents can change their mind, you're probably best off going low or no contact with them.
Yeah.
Like, because if the kids know that they are not viewed the same and they're gonna feel unloved, they're gonna feel hurt, and you don't need that.
Yeah, well, and what's gonna happen during Christmas time when
When they give the niece like a million presents and your kids like one a piece.
yeah, the kids are you're sorry kids, this year Christmas budget's been reduced because we have a real grandchild now and they need most of our money. But you understand, right? Here's a gift card to Chili's.
Well, exactly. Like, in this, they're already showing favoritism, and that doesn't bode well. So you're better off keeping your kids away until your parents can treat them all equally.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. It's really sad. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Hiya Catharosoralsilistad says, not the jerk, your parents seem to be fine with letting your kids consider them as grandparents for years. Nothing should change just because someone has squirted out a baby they share DNA with. That means this whole time that they've really only considered your kids some kind of twisted consolation prize. And as if that wasn't heartbreaking enough, they decided it's fine to say this with your children in the room. That's absolutely vile. And even if they apologize and backpedal, I think twice about the level of contact and intimacy that they're allowed to have with your children. You did the exact right thing, and don't let anyone lead you to believe otherwise. And OP replies, I hate it so much, honestly. My wife's parents have wanted nothing to do with her since she came out, so my parents were her only grandparents to the kids that they really had. I had no idea that they felt like this about my children the whole time, and that's really tragic. This is extraordinarily tragic. And Dart1126 says, not the jerk, sister-in-law is a rock star. She totally tried to save that fumble. Your parents should have picked up on that and caught that pass and saved the situation. Instead, they doubled down and argued the point. That's extremely unfortunate. I'm sorry. It is pretty sad. It's
Well,
pretty sad. They gave him an out, too.
well, exactly.
It's like you had an excuse. You could have been like, yeah, oh yeah, whatever. But no, they chose the bad path.
Well, and of course the brother is fine with it because, you know, his little kid is the one getting spoiled.
Yeah. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber's got a joke.
Why did the bacterium cross the microscope?
Why did the bacterium cross the microscope? Well, it needed to get to the next slide.
Yes. To get to the other slide, but yes.
Well, okay, fine. But I got it still. I know I'm onto that book, folks. I'm onto it. Its little tricks won't work on me.
I thought it was clever. I love this one.
And I have Mega Mint tea. All right, folks. That's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving it a like. And if you didn't, consider giving it a dislike. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Bye.